Alright boys, I am back and I am bringing you a brand new Berserker Titan Strand build utilizing the brand new aspect added this season, Flechette Storm. This thing is a monster, probably the coolest looking Strand ability, is right up there with the Hunter Dive and Snaring Slam ability, but this thing is a beast. It is very fun and we have some cool artifact mods to make this thing even better, so let's go ahead and hop right into this build. So of course we're going to be on Berserker Titan. For your barricade you can use Rally or Towering, really doesn't matter, but you definitely want to use Shackle Grenade. One, because well, it's just the best grenade, and two, with the exotic Abeyant Leap, which we're using for this build, you will get Woven Mail whenever you suspend an enemy. Now for our aspects, like I said, we're using Flechette Storm, and we're also using Drenger's Lash. Now Flechette Storm being the brand new Strand aspect added this season, you just gotta pick up the quest in Neomuna, complete the quest, probably takes 15-20 minutes, boom, and you get the aspect and it's free. And once you do it once for one character, you can just go right to the Puka Pond and your other characters and just pick up the aspect. Now this aspect states that while sliding, activate your charged melee ability to leap into the air, knocking nearby targets away and dealing damage. While airborne, activate your charged melee again to launch a cluster of damaging unraveling projectiles. Repeatedly activating melee will chain additional throws. And a little side note before I keep going explaining the build, in the settings, in the gameplay settings, there is a new full auto melee option. If you turn that on, you don't have to keep clicking the melee button to keep firing the little projectiles. You just hold it once and it just rapid fire the projectiles as fast as it possibly can. It is a really good setting. It also works for swords, glaives, anything that has a melee option or multiple melee charges. This will work for that. Anyway, back to the build. Like I said, you slide into the air, you activate your melee, you just hold down the melee button with the full auto melee setting, and you just start sending out these little strand projectiles. They look like the Warlock melee strand projectiles, and it unravels them, and it's just so cool. It has tons of range, they travel pretty fast, and they do really good damage, especially with a new artifact mod that we have this season, which is called Improved Unraveling. Increases the amount of damage dealt by unraveling a target. This thing is really good for any type of unraveling build or unraveling ability, such as the Flechette Storm or the Warlock melee ability. Now our other aspect, Drenger's Lash, which has been in the game since Strand came out, activating your class ability to create a ripple in reality that travels forward along the ground, suspending enemies and damaging targets it hits. This is just another way that I'm going to suspend enemies. I want to be able to have my barricade and my melee as much as possible with this build. As for our fragments, we're using Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy. It is honestly a must-have in every Strand build. We're using Thread of Continuity. Suspend, Unravel, and Sever effects applied to targets have increased duration. We're using Thread of Mind. Defeating suspended targets grants class ability energy, and it grants a lot of class ability energy, and we're going to be able to suspend targets a lot with our Suspend Nade and the Drenger's Lash aspect. And lastly, we're using Thread of Warding. Picking up an overpower grants Woven Mail. Woven Mail is like a 60 or 70% damage reduction, something like that, something crazy, correct me if I'm wrong, but this thing is just another must-have on just about every single Strand build. Now there's only one weapon that matters for this build, and it's the GOAT weapon. It's a Monte Carlo, my favorite exotic in the game, and it just got a new ornament this season. Go check it out, it is beautiful. It's Deep Stone Crypt themed and it just looks amazing. I had to buy it immediately. Anyway, this exotic states that you get the perk Monte Carlo method. Dealing damage with this weapon reduces your melee cooldown and grants a chance to fully charge your melee ability with each kill. You also get Markov Chain. This weapon gains increased damage from melee kills and kills with this weapon. Melee kills grant ammo for this weapon. So essentially, you get 5 stacks of Markov Chain if you get a melee kill. If not, each kill with the weapon grants 1 stack. And if you get a melee kill, it completely reloads the weapon and grants immediately Markov Chain times 5, which is about 65 or 66% extra weapon damage. And on top of the recent kinetic weapon damage buff and auto rifle buff, this thing hits really hard. For my stats, I went with 100 resilience, which I think is honestly the only important stat for this build, but I also tried to get as high as discipline as I can, which is 86, and I got 70 recovery. Every other stat really doesn't matter, although having high intellect would also be another idea. Now moving on to the artifact, I don't have my artifact fully unlocked yet, but so far with the mods I am able to get, or the perks I should say, I would highly recommend getting authorized mods melee and Improved Unraveling. Later on in the artifact, probably Conductive Cosmic Needle, so that way it's almost like a debuff against arc and void abilities, and I'd say that's about it. Maybe Strand Soldier if you want to use a Strand weapon with this build, but I'm using Monte Carlo, so this does not affect me. But yeah, definitely improved unraveling and authorized mods melee. So here is the full mod loadout for my build. If you want to pause this and take a screenshot so you can apply it to your Titan, go right ahead. I'm going to go individually piece by piece and talk about each mod. So firstly, with my helmet, I have 2 hands-on mods, so I gain bonus super energy on melee kills. And I also have a kinetic siphon mod on, so that way I can get those orbs of power whenever I get multi-kills with Monte Carlo. On my arms, I have on 1 heavy-handed mod. Your powered melee final blows create an orb of power, and if you get a lot of kills with the Flechette Storm, you can actually create multiple orbs of power, like 4 or 5, because they're all counted as melee kills. And we have double focusing strike, grants class ability energy when you cause damage with a melee attack. For my chest piece, the only important mod is charged up. I also have concussive dampener, but you can kind of change this depending on the activity you're playing. Now for my exotic piece of choice, I'm using the Abeyant leap, which grants you the armor perk Puppeteer's Control. Dranger's Lash spawns 2 additional projectiles, tracks targets more aggressively, and travels further. Gain woven mail when suspending targets. That gain woven mail when suspending target, it's very good for this build because that's how we're going to stay alive and stay tanky, by gaining all that woven mail when suspending with our nade or our barricade. And of course the barricade just has 2 additional suspending projectiles. Now as for my mods, I'm using 1 recuperation so I can gain health whenever I pick up an overpower, as well as woven mail. And I have 1 invigoration, reduce melee cooldown each time you pick up an overpower. We're also using stacks on stacks. Picking up an overpower grants you 1 additional stack of armor charge. And on my class item, I am double stacking utility kickstart, which states that when your class ability energy is fully expended, you gain class ability energy. Additionally, your armor charge is consumed and you gain additional class ability energy for each stack. Double utility kickstart paired with threat of mine, you can essentially cast your barricade, suspend targets, kill those targets, and you just pretty much refresh your barricade, which again can suspend more targets or provide protection just with the barricade. It is such a good pairing with the mods and the fragments. And lastly, here is my drip. Here's just a screenshot. These are all the ornaments and the shaders that I am using for this build. So there is the full build, boys. This is an extremely fun build. Honestly, the most fun I've had on all of the Strand subclasses. The one weakness for this build is I noticed that in harder content, putting yourself in the air like that to shoot the missiles can be a bit risky because you can take a lot of damage. But I think if you proc woven mail first and then go up in the air, you'll have an easier time getting off those projectiles or staying far away and doing it, because it has a lot of range, so you don't got to be right up in front of the enemy to do it. So just be more careful when it comes to harder content. But in some of these 6-man activities that are just really fun and easy, you don't have to really think about anything, this thing is a monster and you're gonna have tons and tons of fun using this. So that's it, boys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.